Christmas time is here, happiness and cheer, fun for all that children call their favorite time of year.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Heritage Choir. I'm really excited to be joined here by Bob Peskin and Maibel Troia, who are wonderful musicians and friends, and I'm very, very grateful that you're here. So welcome. Why don't we start with a quick introduction? So Bob, let's start with you and give me just a short introduction about who you are, what kind of work you do, where are you located right now?
I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. My job is the executive director of the Minnesota Chorale, which is a professional symphonic chorus, but it's also an umbrella organization of a group of choirs, including children's choirs and senior choirs. I'm also a professional singer. I sing in the Minnesota Chorale, and I've been honored to sing in Border Crossing since its founding. And I also sing in a doo-wop quartet with three close friends, and we sing, popular music from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That genre. Although we say it's doo-wop, we also venture out into some pop and jazz standards. So that's who I am.
Yo soy Maibel Troia, venezolana. Actualmente dirijo el coro Encantus, Voices and Ensemble, y también doy clases en el FIU, en la cátedra de dirección coral. Recientemente llegué a Estados Unidos hace apenas 3 años, pero me divierto un montón haciendo muchas cosas que hace falta todavía que podamos transmitir a esta ciudadanía, a los floridianos y igualmente a todos los estadounidenses, nuestra hermosa cultura latinoamericana.
Entiendo.
Gracias.
Ahí
qué
vamos,
bueno.
ahí vamos. Maibel, tell me about your childhood. Cuéntame tu juventud. ¿Tú dónde creciste? ¿Cómo was your
Uy.
family musical?
No. Mi papá era italiano, él ya falleció hace más de 20 años. Mamá es nacida en Colombia,
¿Es
llegó a
colombiana?
Venezuela, es bogotana.
Dios mío, somos primas. My
Sí.
God.
Ella llegó a Venezuela a los 7 años y a los 15 años se casó con mi papá, que fue su primer y único amor. Y bueno, yo soy la hija mayor de 2 hijas hembras. Desde pequeños, papá, los dos como buenos inmigrantes, lucharon muchísimo para darle lo mejor de su herencia y de las posibilidades que podíamos tener, darnos las mejores posibilidades para todas, para seguir adelante y ser cada vez mejores. A los 5 años, un amigo de mi papá, que era profesor de música, de piano, papá lo trajo un día a casa y le dijo, mira, estas son mis hijas, y él le dijo, bueno, vamos a darle clase de piano. Y así empezamos, a los 5 años, mi hermana y yo. Ya acabamos de llegar de Italia, porque desde muy pequeñitas nos fuimos para allá a vivir, y después regresamos por circunstancias de la vida. Y a nuestro regreso empezamos a estudiar piano. A los 10 años entré a la escuela de música, y en la escuela de música llevé adelante toda mi carrera formal de música, pero tuve la bendición de tener 2 extraordinarios directores de coro en la escuela de música. En el coro infantil estaba Modesta Bor, que fue una extraordinaria compositora, maestra musical, una de las mejores compositoras de música coral venezolana y de Latinoamérica, y que recientemente acababa de llegar de Rusia, fue alumna de Cachaturian, y realmente fue maravillosa, una maravillosa maestra. Y posteriormente entré al coro juvenil que dirigía el maestro Alberto Grau. Un día Alberto dice, acaba de llegar una joven de Bristol, brillante, que quiere hacer un coro femenino, y todos levantamos la mano. y todas las muchachas que estábamos en el coro fuimos a integrar la cantoría Alberto Grau. Y la cantoría Alberto
Wow.
Grau fue el coro estrella de María, con las voces femeninas y además pioneros de toda la música de voces iguales en Venezuela. Y desde entonces, pues María y Alberto han sido mis mentores, amigos, de todo. Han sido unas extraordinarias personas que me han llevado, me han ayudado y me han inspirado muchísimo en toda mi carrera musical. Conjuntamente con el maestro Abreu, ellos crearon toda la pirámide de trabajo de formación musical en nuestro país. Entonces se creó la licenciatura en música y posteriormente la maestría en música. En la maestría en música que se organizó en la Universidad Simón Bolívar, yo soy la primera alumna egresada de la maestría en música. Y fue una maravillosa experiencia trabajar tanto en la universidad como en el sistema. En el sistema, conjuntamente con el maestro Abreu, desarrollamos todo el programa coral. Antes de venirme, dejamos un movimiento de 300.000 niños y jóvenes cantando en todo el país.
Wow.
Y ha sido maravilloso el haber ayudado a desarrollar todo este movimiento, pero lamentablemente todo este problema social existente me trajo a estas nuevas tierras con la esperanza de seguir formando y seguir haciendo música.
Wow. Bob, tell me a little bit about your childhood. Where did you grow up in? Did you grow up in a musical family?
Somewhat. I was born and raised in New Jersey, about 50 miles from New York City. My mother was a classical trained pianist, and I was the youngest of 4 children, and all of the children exhibited some musical acumen. My father, on the other hand, loved music, but he was completely tone deaf. He was a great audience member. And my mom, the stories in my family were that I, more than my older siblings, exhibited a lot of musical sensitivity from the time I was really small. And so my mom she was playing in semi-professional chamber ensembles and things like that as a pianist. And so my entire growing up is filled in my head with the sound of her practicing, Mozart and Beethoven and Brahms and all. But she and my dad both loved Broadway musicals. And so because they lived so close to New York, they would go into the city, see a show, and buy the cast album and bring it back and play it on the hi-fi. And the story goes that there was a revival of the Threepenny Opera in 1958, which was when I was 2 years old. And so I was not speaking yet. I was very kind of slow to develop. And the story goes that they put that record on, and when the song came to Mac the Knife, the famous song from the Threepenny Opera, I ran over to the stereo, and I was transfixed. And the song played, and I gestured to them, play it again, play it again, play it again. So there was clearly something going on. And so my mom struggled with when to start me on piano lessons. She didn't want to start me too early for fear that, I would have all the child prodigy stuff going on. So she waited until I was 7 years old and then started me on lessons with a friend of hers who was a teacher. She knew that she didn't want to teach her own child. And so I took lessons, and I was a terrible, terrible piano student. I hated to practice. I wanted to do anything but practice. I wanted to be outside playing baseball, and playing the piano was so solitary. Also, the piano in our house we had a very small house. The piano was right in the living room. So when you're playing with everybody listening, and it just, I didn't like it. And I changed teachers a couple of times, each time with my mom trying to find the right fit, and it never worked out. And finally, when I was in 8th grade, she said, my teacher, her friend said, "This is a waste of my time. He's not doing any work." And my mother finally said, "Look, you get to choose. Either stick with it and do the work or quit." And I said, "Great, I quit." And I was 13. I didn't touch the piano for probably a couple of months. And then I started to fool around because at this time I'm listening to all the popular music of the day. And I started listening to songs and then playing them back on the piano. And so I developed this kind of facility for, I really developed my ear training in effect. So I could listen to something just a few times and then play it entirely on the piano. And from that point on was when sort of the music became mine instead of my mom's project. You know what I mean? And then only a year later, I started high school, and same high school all my siblings had gone to, and they had been, stars in the theater and sports and all this stuff. And it's like I wanted to do something that none of my siblings had been famous for in our high school, and the only thing left was choir. so I auditioned for the choir, and I had a very low voice. I could sing as a 14-year-old. I could sing down to a low C comfortably, and that's
Okay,
Wow.
that's pretty unusual for young high school boys.
yes.
So and I have relative pitch, so I had all that piano training. So and the choir director was this really inspiring and highly demanding professional. His name was Bill Trigo. He just died a couple of years ago, and he and the accompanist, his number 2 person, was named Nancy Perella, and the two of them were my most important mentors, because as it turned out, it's in this town, they were the high school choir directors, but they were also the directors of the freshman university ensembles. It's the town of Princeton, New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Wow.
I wound up going to Princeton, and so I sang with Bill and Nancy Ann for 4 years in high school, and then in freshman year of college, and then I was Bill's assistant conductor as a junior. And even though I was a music composition major, I was getting this sort of model as well as direct instruction in conducting there. And so I had all these great experiences right up through high school and college, with a highly demanding program. I mean, we went on a European tour, we sang world premieres, we did commissioned works with well-known composers. I mean, it was an amazing program. And that was sort of what I thought everybody had for their high school program. It was all that I knew. And then after college, I took a giant detour. I really wanted to live far away from cities. I just didn't like the urbanness. And so I loved the countryside. I moved to a small town in Vermont and lived there for almost 15 years, doing all sorts of other things to make a living. And music was sort of a sideline. And I got a lot of experience, but yeah.
Yes, I just want to say something. I really agree with Bob because studying piano is for alone people, and that's why I choose how to do a choral director, a choral conducting teacher, because I love to be inside of the people, inside of the children's, in the middle of the favelas, and try to keep all of the children beside us, just to try to do the best thing for them. So I love it. That's why I agree with you, Bob, because it's a lonely career to be a
Oh
pianist,
yeah.
soloist, but like a choral conductor is an amazing world, amazing
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Well, that whole notion of, as choral singers and directors, the music we make is totally with other people. It only
Yeah.
happens with other people. And I remember all those years of lessons and recitals, I would get terribly, terribly nervous, and I hated to perform because it was just me and this instrument and my hands, and they could so easily just betray me. And with all of the choral concerts that I've done as a kid and as an adult, I've never gotten nervous once because I
Mm,
know that I'm doing it with these other people, that we're supporting each other. Um,
that's it.
I never feel alone when I'm making choral music, whether it's
Is the same
rehearsing
heart.
or yeah,
Sorry, is the same heart beating? Everybody trying to do the best of effort to do the best things of everything. So
yeah,
it's beautiful. That's why I love
exactly.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So um, the Minnesota Chorale actually sang in
Mm.
Venezuela, in Caracas, as part of I think around the year 2000, because Maria is old friends with Kathy Romy, who is the chorale's artistic director, and the chorale sang at something called the America Cantat.
America
Uh,
Cantat #5. Yes, it
right.
was in the Teresa Carreño complex, cultural
Okay.
complex.
Yeah, and so there's a whole bunch of the chorale singers who who are still singing in the chorale who sang on that tour, and they still talk about it. I mean, there's still adventures
Yes,
from so.
it was amazing because we did what Maria organized everything with not only a choral performances,
Hmm.
show our culture with the best
Mm.
orchestras and bands and um, uh, popular groups too,
Hmm.
and as well how to dance our music, how to dance salsa and merengue
Right,
in the middle of the big at the beginning of the each concert. So it would be
right.
a very extraordinary organization of all of the people of the Scola Cantorum
Yeah,
Foundation.
right. When I first moved to Minnesota in 1992, and I started in graduate school, and with the very famous choir from here at the time was called the Dale Warland Singers, and I um, was on their on-call roster when I was in graduate school. I wasn't singing with them yet, but Maria was brought in as a guest conductor for one of their concerts, and I was invited to attend the dress rehearsal. And I remember how much she was modeling the music in her body and trying to get the singers to do the same. And some of them were pretty good at it. A whole lot of them were really struggling, and it was just one of those moments where you could see that there's this approach that you could try that really could open up a whole world to you. And then there's where most of these North American singers had come from, which was very, uh, you know,
Straight.
exactly. And then as soon and then once they start to loosen up and move around, it changed the sound. And I know that that was a one-time thing. That was one concert for that group, and I started singing with them full time the following season, and that had a lasting impact for those folks who had watched her do that. It was so inspiring.
Alberto, he's a great composer too, not only
Yes,
a
right.
choral conductor, but he in that time he was beginning with the rhythm music inside of the body. So we are
Ah,
always singing with a clapping and
right.
do some um,
Body
noises with
posture.
our
Yes.
chests
Uh-huh.
or singing or jumping or something like that. So, and it's really normal because our instrument is not our larynx
Hmm.
or elbows. We have our instrument is the whole body. So
Right.
it's inspiring that if you do some in a special movement to sing, and the music is better. You already
Oh
know
yeah.
that in the passion was great because it was a very beautiful piece that Osvaldo Golijov made, and it was a creation, a relative that as he tell, is a complex creation of everybody. It's not only from him or Gonzalo with the trumpets or the piano or the percussions. it was Maria, it was the soloist, it was the whole body, the whole choir to make the movement of this passion, and the result of that passion is really amazing. If you try to sing that passion without any movement, it's not a passion.
Y Maibel, ver a María dirigir La Pasión, I mean, every rehearsal, it was amazing to watch her because the beat, everything, she would keep the beat in her feet and she's moving.
Yes.
And I mean, it's like you can't stand like this if your director is literally dancing in front of you. Like you
Yes.
had to, and siendo Latina, it's like everything at home, we're dancing, we're moving, we're singing. When I clean, I'm moving. And I feel like in choir, it's, hold your music, stand, find a good, tall body. And I think to get permission to be like, no, you can still do all of that, but you can be free and you can still sing and have a good alignment, a good technique, but your body can be loose and it can move. To me was like, oh, like why didn't anyone say that before? Esa es la respuesta. Tengo que estar libre, tengo que moverme para poder cantar.
That's it.
One of the reasons I love singing in my doo-wop quartet is because it's the popular music approach, and it's using your body is just naturally a part of that, and it kind of gets down to it's its own sort of performance practice. We've been given permission that in popular music you can do this. We've been trained that classical music you're not supposed to detract or distract from the score, and there's at the higher levels of all of these, I think there's probably a meeting point where when you're so involved, when you're so engaged in if you're deeply engaged in the music, everything else will follow naturally, so, and there's all kinds of ways that we can get to beauty and passion, and it's for me, it's just really rewarding to be able to practice many approaches.
Lo bello de la música coral es que tienes todo. Tienes canto gregoriano, tienes salsa, tienes Brahms, tienes Mahler, tienes todo, tienes Bach, que es tan importante en la vida de un músico. Así que es maravilloso ser cantante, formar parte, ser corista, ser director, porque tienes todo este bagaje de música que no te puedes aburrir. Y sobre todo ahorita en Navidad, que con Encantus estamos haciendo ahorita toda una serie de aguinaldos, que no todo el mundo sabe que es un aguinaldo, pero el aguinaldo es venezolano, es particularmente venezolano, y es maravilloso cantar aguinaldos en Navidad, porque eso forma parte de nuestra herencia.
Cuéntame más sobre qué es un aguinaldo.
El aguinaldo viene por supuesto, de la influencia de los villancicos españoles. Tanto los villancicos españoles como los venezolanos son los únicos que tenemos permiso dentro del catolicismo de hacer misas especiales con esa música. O sea, son tan importantes, son tan importantes dentro de la historia musical y por lo que dicen, porque todos sus textos, aunque no sean sacros, tienen que ver con el nacimiento de Jesús, con lo que todo lo que tiene toda la parte de Adviento, de la preparación, del nacimiento, la llegada de los reyes. O sea, que toda esa parte hermosa del aguinaldo se hace en diciembre y es maravilloso porque tuvimos mucha herencia tanto de este villancico español que se queda en Venezuela y que se crea toda una cantidad de compositores que fueron creando estos aguinaldos para el beneficio, para la riqueza musical de nuestro país. Y después se fue difundiendo, por supuesto, alrededor de toda Latinoamérica hispanohablante.
Dame un ejemplo. ¿Cuál es alguna canción?
Por ejemplo, una canción, la más conocida es El Niño Lindo. Niño lindo, ante ti me rindo, niño lindo, eres tú mi Dios. siguen diferentes, ese es el coro. Después siguen diferentes estrofas que lo hace una solista. Y, y realmente es hermoso porque siempre se piensa que es un 2x4, un 2 cuartos o un 6 octavos, pero realmente la mayoría de nuestros aguinaldos están 5x8.
Oh,
Entonces, niño lindo, ante ti me rindo, niño lindo, eres tú mi Dios. Y así va. Sencillo.
¿ustedes en Venezuela hacen la novena?
La novena de Beethoven.
No.
No.
En Navidad. In Colombia, Bob, we do something called la novena, which is the 9 days before Christmas. Y cada noche, we rezamos y cantamos villancicos, and they're an excuse to get together at people's houses and eat Christmas food for 9 days. And ¿ustedes no hacen eso?
Más que la novena, nosotros hacemos la corona de Navidad. Es decir, que la corona es la corona de pinos, que colocas tus 4 velas y la quinta vela es justamente los 4 domingos de Adviento.
Yeah, like the Advent
Que
wreath.
todos rezamos y rezamos y después nos ponemos a cantar aguinaldos.
Pregunto porque la novena colombiana cantamos villancicos en la mitad, and then there's this ben, da-na-na-na-na, this like really derpy little piece of music. And one of my favorite memories is we were doing this, and my dad, I had just started college, so I was like, Dad, I know what music theory is now. And he starts playing, and he's like, Natalia, esto es una samba. Ven, pam, para, pam. Ven a nuestra. And my mom, Jaime Alberto, bye. And then the next one, Natalia, esta es una ranchera. Pam, 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 pam. Ven. And my mom, Jaime Alberto. And of course, and I are laughing. Juliana, my middle sister, who is just very mysterious, Juliana's holding a maraca like this. Maria's shaking the dog, and I'm sitting there crying, And it's become this tradition now, and every year I'll look at my dad and he'll it looks very, until my mom, hi, maybe, just calladito, until we get there. So when you're talking about los aguinaldos, recordé que en nuestra casa cantamos villancicos, and now as an adult, they're beautiful memories. But as a teenager, you're like, I don't want to be here. I just want to go with my friends. And but anyway, that's what my family sounds like. So let's talk a little bit about your life as choir directors.
Right now, I'm not actively conducting. I have done it a lot in the past, and I did master's work in choral conducting at the university. And for about 5 years, I was the music director at Unity Church Unitarian, where Ahmed is now. But I got to a point where I was interested in a more collaborative form of music making, and I got very uncomfortable with being anointed as the sole arbiter of how it was going to go. The only person who was entitled to an interpretation and telling people what to do. I just got more and more uncomfortable with that. And so for the last whatever number of years, what I've invested my musical energies in has been either as a singer or in participating in those collaborative music making things. And the doo-wop quartet probably comes the closest to that sort of ideal shared model of leadership, because there's 4 of us. Everybody has an equal voice in not only every aspect of the performance, but also the rehearsal. And the way we develop our repertoire is we'll start with, someone will bring in a song and say, hey, I love this oldie. It's all oldies. and we'll listen to the recording, maybe the famous recording or some other versions. And then we'll kind of improvise along to it. And then we'll do it enough times, and then we'll take the recording away. And then we'll listen to what we have. And then people will chime in with different ideas. Like, what if you did this? Or what if I did this? And then if I go here, that means you have to cover this middle part here. And then so sort of through this evolutionary process, we make the music. And I love making music that way. And I know that you couldn't do that with 40 people. But but we're seeing lots of ensembles that can make music that way that are fairly sizable. The Orpheus Chamber Ensemble is an orchestra in New York that does not have a conductor. Cantus, the men's a cappella group here in the Twin Cities, they don't have a music director. They equally share in the music making. And then at the same time, I love being a singer because I love working with conductors who inspire me, who have that singular vision and who can bring you along in that vision. And so I get kind of both my needs met, both the participating as a creator and participating as a performer. And I think that's it's what it's what keeps me passionate about the art form, making music in collaboration with other people.
Yo estoy como muchos dicen, como tú misma lo acabas de decir, estoy en continuo crecimiento, eso no importa si mi cabello es más blanco o no, pero realmente el hecho de estar conociendo nuevas personas, nuevos directores, la manera como lo hacen es impresionante, es muy importante ese feedback que tú puedas enseñar humildemente y a su vez recibir por parte de los demás. Es maravilloso. Y que no sé qué más te puedo decir de esa parte tan interesante, porque realmente es un mundo mágico. Es algo que te llena, tú no sabes cómo entra, pero se queda allí en tu corazón y sigue latiendo, sigue batiendo, sigue latiendo tu corazón para buscar esa cercanía de lo que tú quieres hacer. Y con toda esta cantidad de conocimiento que tienes desde pequeña, la mezcla de culturas, la mezcla de directores, la, lo que has estudiado también y ponerlo en uno de tus estudiantes o dentro de tu coro, bien sea en Cantus o FIU o cualquier otro que tú que estés allí, es interesantísimo porque estás dejando un pedacito de ti dentro de cada uno de ellos. Y es lo que uno como director coral espera que cause impacto también dentro de cada uno de tus alumnos como maestro.
The final part of this interview is the song share. The song share is drawn directly from our community sings, and it's a chance for you to hear the two people we've been listening to share a specific piece of music that means something to them.
So I think the first year I was singing in my high school choir, we did a joint concert with a local Black church choir. And the plan was to end the concert with what was then called the Negro National Anthem. We still sing it today. It's called Lift Every Voice and Sing. And there wasn't a copy of the music anywhere, so we had to learn it by rote. And my mother, who was a teacher at the school, she taught English. She couldn't play by ear. She only could play from notes. So she wrote out the music so she could play it. And I actually have it here. She's passed away almost 10 years ago now. But when we were finding all of her stuff in her apartment after she passed away, I saw this on the shelf and I went, holy cow. That's the Lift Every Voice that she wrote out for herself. And so I learned this as a high school kid, and I've never forgotten it. I've never forgotten that experience because it was so profoundly transforming to be able to sing with people who didn't look like me, who didn't sound like me, who had a very different upbringing than I did, even in our small town. And to know that they loved choral singing just as much as I did, and it came from a very different part of the choral tradition than I had known of up until that point. So, and then my mom was the accompanist, so it's just sort of doubly meaning. So anyway, do you want to hear a little bit? I think I can probably sing the end of it.
Yes, please.
I'll just do the last couple of lines because it's too emotional for me. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Hay una canción maravillosa que ha marcado mi vida como directora y especialmente como cantante, también como coralista. Y dentro del sistema, como bien te dije, han pasado muchos directores y hemos visto crecer muchos niños dentro de la orquesta que han pasado de ser instrumentistas a ser grandes directores. La obra más importante que hemos cantado, aparte de la novena sinfonía de Beethoven, es la segunda sinfonía de Mahler, La Resurrección. Y realmente su significado, el hecho del trabajo que hizo Mahler para componerla, de poder lograr hasta llegar hasta ese quinto movimiento, su búsqueda, su constante eh, eh, hecho de poder lograr una obra maravillosa como la segunda sinfonía de Mahler, realmente me ha impactado porque él ha sido muy disciplinado tratando de llevar adelante esta hermosa obra. Y por supuesto, el hecho de poderlo interpretar con grandes directores y una hermosa orquesta como la que teníamos en Venezuela, eh, siempre marcó en mí algo muy importante. Y el hecho de poder cantar, o en este caso trato de cantar porque no puedo, aquellas palabras inmortales que dice, resucitarás, sí resucitarás, corazón mío, en un instante, lo que ha latido habrá de llevarte a Dios. Realmente es milagroso, te sientes en el cielo, más cerca de Dios y por supuesto acompañado de la música de todos tus amigos, de todos tus corolistas, de todos tus instrumentistas y realmente es, yo creo que la obra maravillosa que ha marcado mi vida.